In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a giant porcelain plate or platter that's about 20 inches wide. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need is a giant bat like this one. I made this out of scrap wood, but you're going to need a really big bat for anything that you want to throw that's really large. The next thing we need to do, as always, is wedge out our clay. I don't really know how much clay I have here, somewhere between like 18 and 20 to 25 pounds. You're gonna need a decent amount. Anything large is gonna require quite a bit of clay. So what I'm doing here is I'm spiral wedging, and then at the end of my spiral wedge, I'll round off the bottom to make it easier to throw it on the wheel without getting any air bubbles underneath. So you see me doing that here. You're going to repeat this process for the rest of your clay. After I prepped all my clay, I divided them into sections like you see here. And then I went over, turned the wheel on, and threw them down on the wheel, one stacked on top of the other. The next thing I do here is a little bit different. I'm not going to center the clay the same way I would normally. Instead, what I'm going to do is I hammer it out, and I'm going to try to get it as flat and as even as possible. This is a really great method for people who have a hard time centering large amounts of clay, but the difficulty when doing this method is trying to make sure that your puck is as even as possible, because you're not pressing down and you're not centering it the way you would normally. You're doing that kind of manually by hand. So you can see here that I'm struggling to make that puck of clay as uniform as possible. Once I've reached that consistency though, and it's about as wide as I want it to be, I'm going to measure it. It should be about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. When making large plates or platters, you want to leave a little bit of clay in the bottom. This helps when cutting it off, and I find helps to give a bit more stability when drying. So here I'm just going to even out the top with a metal rib to make it as smooth as I can. And once it is as even and as smooth as possible, I'm going to cut the rim using a needle tool. And what this essentially does is it takes away the unevenness on the outside, so I don't have to center that outside anymore. So because the top is completely flat, I should now have an even flat top and a centered side without having to go back in and center it. So from this point, it's just like throwing any other plate. You're gonna press in from the side and then pull the walls up. You'll see here that the top of my plate is uneven. So I pull it up and I cut the rim off ever so gracefully right here. Yeah. Okay, so after that fiasco, I compress the rim to make sure that it's not off center anymore. And then I'll do a couple more pulls to get a little more height out of the wall and a little bit more width out of the plate. And then I will shape it to the general shape that I want. I want a nice continuous curve. So after this, you need to make sure that you compress the base of your plates. This is a really crucial step, and I love using the metal rib for this, or the metal kidney, like you see me doing here. I'll press against the inside until I come to the edge where the wall of the plate meets the base, and then I'll come back through and I'll do it again. And it's really important that you compress this, because if you don't, this is where S-cracks can form in your plates, and I've had this happen a bunch of times. So when something is this wide, it is really prone to cracking. It's really easy, and so you want to try to compress as much as possible. When you're doing this, though, you have to be really careful that when you go to press toward the middle, like you see me doing here, that you don't gouge out the middle. Next, what I'll do is I'll hit it with a heat gun. So I'll take the side here and I'll blow dry it, or take the heat gun to it to dry it out. The rim of the plate is really, really heavy. It's a little bit thicker, and when you pull it out that far, gravity tends to want to make it fall over, and if it doesn't firm up a little bit, sometimes it can fall over. So sometimes what you'll see people do is they'll take a heat gun to it like I'm doing now, or they'll take a blowtorch to it and just kind of stiffen that up. Some people may not do this, and they may advise you against this because you don't want to rush the drying on a large plate like this, but I find that if you just gently come over it with a heat gun, you can kind of preserve the shape of your rim and your lip. So we take a measurement here, and I'm at about 20 inches, and that'll shrink a little bit in the drying and in the kiln. The last thing we need to do is cut this off. And a tip for cutting off large plates or large things like this is to make a little groove along the bottom with a needle tool or other sharp tool. Then take your wire tool and press down really hard. I like to spin the wheel if possible, but sometimes when it's really big like this, it's hard to do that. So make sure that your wire stays really tight though, because otherwise you'll cut the bottom off. And there we have it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Like always, this video is made possible by all the good people who like and subscribe. So if you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more cool art stuff. Keep at it, never stop growing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.